makes Heritage different in terms of the instructional facilities and the instructional abilities of Heritage Elementary versus other buildings or other campuses that you've had a chance to lead in?
I think at Heritage we're unique because we're growing by leaps and bounds. We have a couple of new housing developments around us, and so we are literally bursting at the seams. So our teachers are very creative in how we do things around here. We used to have a science lab. We used to have a computer lab on campus. Those rooms are now being used as classrooms. And so in order for us to continue evolving, say with the 21st century, we've been creative in using other spaces in our building. So for instance, in the morning times, we do STEM activities where our co-cur teachers help us out. They're pushing into classrooms to do those activities while teachers are having to use another space to do planning time, because we need the room and the kids need to have things that are accessible to them. And so there's several activities that we do throughout the day that require for us to move into common areas. And so we use our main hallway. Our teachers are...
So the main space, just where you walk in the front of the building?
Yes, main space, hallway, every inch. My second grade team has created a reading cove at the end of their hallway where students go out there and they read and they do activities. My third grade team have activities for math in the hallway where kids are challenging each other and dialoguing about activities in the classroom. So we've just learned to make good use of our space that we have here on the campus.
So what is, when you have teachers who are trying to figure out how to create that engaging, collaborative moment, are there things that probably are getting disruptive as a result because of the way the facility is set up?
Absolutely. They have to take into consideration co-cur time when teams are actually going to co-cur. If the hallway needs to be utilized for that, because we line kids up in the hallway to transition to classes. And so it's, I'd say we fine tune it as we go. My fourth grade team came up this year with let's go to the library. Let's combine our classes in there and do a co-teach model where we can engage and then learn from each other and expose the kids to things with two teachers versus one. And so we work with each other, we look at schedules, we're constantly talking back and forth with each other and figuring out how to make it work.
So if there was an ideal space, if you were to say, you know what, if we were going to create a space for my teachers so that they could not only do the instruction that you would expect to see, but also now, as we're moving forward and trying to create that collaborative piece for kids, what would that space look like that would not also then displace people from where they're trying to do their work?
I would see common areas where you have whiteboards from floor to ceiling, where kids can come in and draw on the boards, and spaces open where kids can sit on bean bags, and an area in the building that's designated for common planning and common teaching for the students that doesn't necessarily require for us to have traffic going through it all the time. If we had different segments of the building where they could take their classes, or if they could open up rooms, have you know, a wall that would slide open to create space for two teams to come together, that would be perfect.
So what were some of your experiences growing up in terms of education and how you see what you want to change as a result of what you went through?
Well, as a kid, I went to private school, and so my experience was very structured. And so it was a lot of, you know, I remember the teacher writing on the board, and then you copy what was on the board. And then you take your book and you have these pages that you're covering by yourself for the next 30 minutes. And then I remember going to the library, we'd have the microfiche. I don't know if you had that. Doing research.
I do remember the we like to call it microfiche because it made it sound very,
well,
you know.
Okay, well, fiche.
Fiche.
Fiche, maybe I'm saying it wrong. Fiche. Microfiche. That's what we had, microfiche. And doing our research that way. I don't remember, well, I do remember one teacher. I remember being in fourth grade and being very excited about going to sixth grade because my sixth grade teacher was very hands-on. She was the teacher that was creative, and there was always laughter coming from her room. And so in her room, I think she was before her time, she did a lot of project-based activities, and we were rocking and rolling in that room, and we did some of the most creative things in that class. I think she's probably one of my favorite teachers because in her room she would say, listen, there's no wrong answer. There's no one in this room that isn't smart. We all come in every day and we do our best, and she challenged us. And so I think that's where my heart for creativity comes from, is because she was willing to take risk and allow us to do things that were not in the textbook. She would say, well, you got a great idea, let's see if it works. And she would come the next day and we would do it. And I think that's what I want for my kids here. I want them to be able to come in and have that creative experience.